Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I am going to be recommending you 5 novellas / short stories. I don't know what the technical definition of a novella or a short story is. I'm sure there is a technical definition of like how many pages or whatever the maximum word count is. I don't know, and to be completely honest, I don't really care. I classify a short story as something that I can generally read in like one go. Well, I've read 600-page books in one go as well, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. So these books, I think they're all under like 200 pages. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're all under 200 pages or around that mark, and you'll be able to bitch through them very quickly. So the first one I have on my list is Purple and Black by KJ Parker. Now, Purple and Black is an absolutely phenomenal story about two friends as they chart their rise through government and the military. It is told in epistolary format, and it is just this wonderful journey of you getting to know these two characters and then some other side characters that we never actually get to meet. But there's really incredible, rich character work that is done in such a small amount of time. It's one of those books that I really want to read again because it's not only is it really short and you can definitely read it in about an hour or two, but the character work is some of the best that I have ever read. Full stop. I mean, is that a surprise to anybody who's read KJ Parker and likes KJ Parker? Probably not, but the fact that you can do that in like 100 pages or something is just absolutely insane to me. So I definitely recommend Purple and Black. I also recommend Purple and Black as a good starting place for KJ Parker because it's not as heavy on some of the economics and political finance engineering stuff that some people don't like, and I can understand why, but it gives you a good taster. So if you don't like that, then you definitely won't like any of his other stuff. But if you do like it, then there is hope. So there we go. The second one is The Empress Soul by Brandon Sanderson. It's funny, I've never really spoken about Brandon Sanderson on my channel, and it's just because I read a lot of my Brandon Sanderson before I started my channel. I like Brando Sando. I think he's great. Like, I think his world building is some of the best out there. I'm not a massive world building type reader. Like, I don't need loads of world building, but I appreciate when it's done, and I think Brandon Sanderson does a really good job of it. But The Empress Soul for me is a really good example of like what he can do when he just condenses everything, because I do feel that some of his books tend to drag on a bit. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it can work in certain circumstances, and I think generally he makes it work for him. But The Empress Soul, I think, again, is about 150 pages, and it's just this incredible story of this young woman who is essentially forced to do a very specific task. So she is basically imprisoned, and we get her relationship with basically the person who is watching her, and their dynamic is one of my favorite dynamics to read because he is basically her, what do you call it, like her guard, but he's not really a guard because he's a member of the government, if I remember correctly. So he's like more senior than that because she's like really good at what she does, and they're worried that she might escape before she finishes the task that she has to do. So he's watching her, but they just have this really good dialogue between them that I just loved. Like, I loved every single second of it. And I think if you want Brandon Sanderson, but like in a third of the page count or even like a fifth of the page count, then you have to read The Empress Soul. It's amazing. It's one of the few Brandon Sanderson books that I think about quite a lot. That and Warbreaker are my two favorite Sando books, and they are for a reason. Next on my list is Eldorado by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Now, this is a book that I was really excited to read, and it's just one of those books that is not for me. But just because it's not for me doesn't mean that it won't be for you. So you should definitely check it out if any of what I'm about to say appeals to you. Now, this book is essentially following two people as they go to enlist the help of essentially this like AI. I think he's an AI, if I remember correctly, but he kind of lives in this like remote part of this planet, and they go to travel to find him, and then they meet him, and then there's like the plot progresses from there. I don't want to spoil it, so I don't want to go into it too much. And it was one of these books that in theory should have really worked for me, and the first like 50 pages I loved the build up of going up to visit this person, but then as soon as they met this person, or this AI I should say, it just didn't work for me. I just didn't really like the conversation. I didn't like the dialogue. I didn't like the pacing. But like I said, I'm really not selling it. But like I said, just because it doesn't work for me, it doesn't mean that it won't work for you. A lot of people really like Elder Race, and I think it is quite well written. It's just not the way that I like my sci-fi written specifically. It's quite almost technical in nature. Like, it reads almost like a manual, and I really do not like that way of writing sci-fi. It really puts me off, actually. And because I read a lot of technical books, like non-fiction books, I don't want to read that in my sci-fi as well. So I'm hypersensitive to it when I see it in my sci-fi, and that's why in this book it personally just did not work for me. But if you are like a die-hard sci-fi fan, or if you just want to dabble in something that is like a bit shorter, then I think you should check it out, because I think the world building is quite good, and I think the premise is really interesting. It just didn't work for me personally. So definitely check it out and let me know if you enjoyed it. And if you have read it and you enjoyed it, let me know kind of how you got on with it. But for me, it just didn't work. But like I said, it might work for you, and you should definitely try it. All right, next, the penultimate one, we have Hellmouth by Giles Christian. And it's very dark, and we are essentially following a group of mercenaries as they go and investigate something that has happened. Now, I'm purposely keeping all these plot summaries really broad, because I actually don't really like reading plot summaries that much. When I go into reading a book, I prefer to like not know anything, to be completely honest. But anyway, we are following this group of mercenaries as they go to investigate something that's happened. Now, this is not one for the faint of heart. Like, I think if you don't like horror, and if you don't like grimdark or dark fantasy, it's pretty gory from what I remember, and it goes into a lot of detail, so you've had your warning there. But my gosh, is it vivid. It is so vivid, and I actually think it would make a really good film. If anybody wanted to make it, I'll help. But it's very detailed, and there's a lot of stuff happening, and yet it doesn't feel like it. It just feels like you're going on this journey with this band of mercenaries. And I don't know, I kind of just felt like I was on the tip of my toes the whole time, which is extremely disconcerting, but I was kind of here for it. And for me, I don't normally like horror, but because I think it was a novella, I could digest it a lot better, because it's a lot shorter. I think if it'd been like 500-600 pages, I would not have been able to get on with it as well as I did. So I think if you're maybe slightly wary of horror like I am, then I think you should give it a go, but be aware that there is a lot of blood and gore and a lot of detail that you might not like. But it's very creepy. It did creep me out in places, and I liked it, because it's not like the type of creepy that I don't like, if that makes sense. But it's just really vivid writing, and I think if you're also looking for a primer into Giles Christian, then I think it might be a good place to start. And then last but not least, we have The Builders by Daniel Polanski. Now, I'm going to do a full review of this soon, probably after this video is out. And The Builders is absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorite books that I've read this year. It's so good. My first Daniel Polanski book, and I just ordered recently a bunch of his other stuff because I want to read as much as I possibly can, because this guy is a phenomenal writer. And I cannot believe I haven't read him prior to reading it, honestly. Like, I can't believe it took me so long. But The Builders is a really short book. I think it's just over 200 pages. I think it might be about 240. I read it in like a day, and we're essentially following a band of characters as they are exacting revenge. We don't know the full details of why this revenge is taking place at the start of the book, and we slowly get context throughout the book as it progresses. Now, what I loved about this book, and I'm going to keep this very brief, is just the character work is phenomenal, and the pacing is phenomenal, and so much happens, and yet it happens in a way that makes sense. It doesn't feel rushed, it doesn't feel forced, and Daniel Polanski's writing is absolutely beautiful. It's quite lyrical in nature, which I would not have expected from a grimdark author, if I'm being completely honest, but it works, and he does a wonderful job. So I think if you want some grimdark, or you want a bit of darker fantasy that is also quite funny, like I laughed out loud in a number of places, I just love the humor, then I think you're gonna really enjoy it. I think if you like Joe Abercrombie, I think you will get on with it really well. So let me know. So there we have it, folks. Those are 5 short stories, novellas, whatever you want to call it, that I recommend to you. If there's any that you have that you'd like to recommend, please do let me know, because I'm always on the hunt for shorter books, And honestly, that's pretty much all I'm reading at the moment. I'm not reading anything above like 350 pages at the moment. So definitely drop your recs down below and I will definitely check them out. I'll see you down in the comments. Stay safe, take care, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.